Hi guys. So Jacob Rees-Mogg responded to another question regarding the hybrid or virtual parliament. So what's happening in Westminster at the moment is some members of parliament are appearing in person while some are appearing via the internet. So this question or this point was raised by Tommy Shepherd, who is a member of parliament for the SNP, and Jacob Rees-Mogg responds in typical Jacob Rees-Mogg style.
Why is the leader prepared to go to any lengths, it seems, no matter how ridiculous, rather than continue with the system which is already in place and which works?
The House. Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman is of course a separatist.
Okay, but how is that relevant? But first of all, I'm not up to speed on Westminster etiquette, but surely you should address him as the right honourable gentleman, not just the honourable gentleman. Anyway, this is typical Jacob Rees-Mogg and typical Tory response when the SNP, the Scottish National Party, bring up a topic, especially one that the Tories don't want to respond to, or they want to talk about something else. They attempt in a sort of lame way to attack the SNP by mispronouncing their names, or attempting to distract by bringing up something that's irrelevant to the discussion.
And he gives the game away when he refers to even greater ridicule, because the honourable member doesn't wish this parliament to be the parliament of the United Kingdom. He wants to separate himself.
And how is that relevant? Why are you talking about this? He has been elected, Tommy Shepherd has been elected by his constituents to represent them in Westminster. And that's what he's doing. I know you don't like that, Jacob. I know it's a problem for you. It's a real pain in the arse that the SNP exist for the Tories. You know, they're the responsible government north of the border. They're ones who are actually taking governing seriously, while you're play acting it, and they're making you look like fools. But instead of responding to them in a legitimate way, you resort to these types of stunts.
From it, and therefore uses every opportunity to ridicule it, which I'm not sure is entirely helpful or the views of the majority of members. As regards remote voting, there was a very clear undertaking that it would be temporary. The consensus reached within the House to allow the hybrid parliament was based on consent on the basis of it being temporary. If people want to make an argument for the longer term about remote voting, they are absolutely entitled to do so. And
now, what he's talking about here is he's being very sly. He's not, of course, showing his hand. What's happened recently is a number of members of parliament from the opposition, so the Labour Party, Liberal Democrats, if there's any left, the SNP and other parties, the Green Party I think as well, these MPs have grouped together and they said, look, we believe it's important to maintain this system because it's not safe for members of parliament to return to Westminster, especially members of parliament who are self-isolating or in a risk category, elderly people or people with certain disabilities. So they want to maintain the system as it is because these members of parliament are still able to interact and perhaps even interact better because of this system. It's more democratic in a way because people who have health problems or who are elderly but are still representing their constituents are able to do so thanks to this system. But of course, Jacob Rees-Mogg wants to remove this system. Why? Once again, because it helps Boris Johnson.
No doubt the Procedure Committee will look at it. But that is an argument for another day. I would be acting in bad faith if I did not deliver on the commitment to those who never wanted remote voting in the first place, if it didn't stop at the point at which we return to a physical parliament. As regards how will numbers be...
But the situation is monitored. You don't have to say, well, we set a date and now we're going to go back to it. Of course, this is all just to help Boris Johnson, and I've talked about this before. But you have to look at the the data at the moment. You have to look at the spread of this virus. If it's continuing to spread, then it's a risk to the lives and to the lives of members of parliament, but also the lives of constituents, the lives of workers, people who are working for these parties and these members of parliament. You're putting a lot of people at risk for what? He will not explain it, of course, but I can tell you it's to protect Boris Johnson, because Boris Johnson is doing very badly at the moment. The Conservative Party are suffering in the polls. They know this because of the bad handling of this virus. So they believe that if they can fill Parliament up again, they can give the perception that things are back to normal and that they are succeeding.
Kept down. There is a well-tried and tested pairing system, and discussions are going on between the whips. So I expect that any member who is concerned about coming here will not have to attend or will not be whipped to attend. With regard to Public Health England, Mr. Speaker, you and the spokesman for the Commission are probably better placed to answer these questions, but Public Health England has been involved in many discussions. The House authorities have liaised very closely with PHE throughout the whole process. That's why these markings are down. That is why, Mr. Speaker, your plan for effectively a roll call division is being tested and worked rather well yesterday, rather than using the division lobbies. That is on advice, so that is being followed, and we are acting in line with other businesses that are planning to come back to work.
Other businesses? Parliament is not a business. I'm sorry to be a bit putting crossing the T's and dotting the I's, but this is Jacob Rees-Mogg, remember.
Finally, as regards his question on whether we're obeying the law, of course the House of Commons and Her Majesty's Government are obeying the law.
Why is the leader prepared?
But of course you're obeying the law, like Boris Johnson obeyed the law last year. Once again, this is about defending Boris Johnson. It's about defending the government and defending the party. It's a complete shambles, the way that they're dealing with this coronavirus. So they need to appear like they're succeeding. In the same way as the ending of the lockdown, even though the number of new cases has not declined sufficiently, is being rolled out. The lockdown is being eased even though the situation has not improved enough. Why? It's to protect the party, to protect the government. It's not about protecting the public. It has never been about protecting the public. It's about protecting the party, showing that they're doing something and showing that they're not making mistakes. You never hear them apologize. You never hear them say, we made a mistake or we did something wrong. They never apologize. It's always about protecting the party. And this, what Jacob Rees-Mogg is attempting to do, is of course protecting the party, making sure that the parliament is full, the constituents, the voters, think that everything is back to normal, and of course that Boris Johnson has his loud support behind him, because of course Boris Johnson is an empty suit. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks. Why not become a Patreon and enjoy access to our Discord server where we share news, chat, and have some fun. If you become a patron, you can also make video suggestions on topics that are important to you. Check it out via the link in the description.